She was sleeping on a cardboard box outside his restaurant when he first saw her. He didn't stop. Jin-woo never stopped for anything. Not for the men who begged for their lives. Not for the women who threw themselves at him at every gala, every private dinner, every backroom meeting where power changed hands like dirty money. Not for anyone who didn't have a reason to be in his world. She had no reason. She was nobody. And yet, 3 days later, he still remembered her face. That was the first sign something was wrong. Jin-woo Kang was 28 years old and he had already built something that took most men a lifetime to destroy. The Kang organization controlled every moving piece in Busan's underworld. The ports, the nightclubs, the import networks that government officials pretended not to see. He was not cruel in the way movies made men like him cruel. He was simply precise, efficient, completely, utterly unmoved by the world around him. His men called him Iyama behind his back, mother, not because he was soft, but because he saw everything. The one time Hyun-soo had skimmed 40,000 won from a port shipment, Jin-woo had known before the ink was dry. Hyun-soo still walked with a slight limp. Women had tried to reach Jin-woo in every way a woman could try. His face was the kind that stopped conversation, sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to already know what you were about to say. Some people called it coldness. Most of them were wrong. But none of them ever got close enough to find out the difference, because Jin-woo had decided, a long time ago, that closeness was a liability. The last person who had been close to him was his mother. She had died when he was 16. After that, he stopped letting people in. It was the most efficient decision he'd ever made. The girl was still there on the third day. He saw her from the window of his car near Jagalchi Market. Same cardboard box. Same thin jacket doing nothing against the November cold rolling off the water. Her head was down, knees pulled to her chest, and even from a distance her posture wasn't defeat. It was stubbornness. Like she was refusing to fold even though everything was telling her to. "Stop the car," Jin-woo said. Min-jun looked in the rearview mirror. "Sir." "I said stop the car, Min-jun. That instruction had 4 words. I will not be simplifying it further." He got out, walked toward her. When his shadow fell across her, she finally looked up. Her eyes were dark brown and tired, and absolutely unafraid. That was the second sign. "You've been here 3 days, he said. She stared at him. "You been counting." American accent, direct, no performance of weakness, no attempt to look pitiful enough to earn sympathy. "I own the restaurant behind you," he said. "I want to know why you're here." "That's a long story." "I have time." She almost smiled, the kind that meant she'd heard that before and knew how quickly time ran out when the story got uncomfortable. "I don't think you actually do," she said. She was right. But he sat down on the curb anyway, in a 15 million won coat, and Min-jun watched from the car with his mouth open, because in 11 years he had never seen Jin-woo Kang sit on a curb for anything. Her name was Jennie Williams, 24 years old, from Atlanta, Georgia. She'd come to South Korea on a partial scholarship to a language and arts program in Busan. She'd worked 3 jobs to cover what the scholarship didn't. She was fluent enough in Korean to navigate, sharp enough in her field to stand out, and alone enough that when things went wrong, there was no one to catch her. Things went wrong in the second year. The program director, Professor Lim, had been embezzling from the international scholarship pool for years. When the investigation started, the first things to disappear were the disbursements, Jennie's included. Her housing stipend stopped. Her meal allowance stopped. And because her visa was tied to the program now under institutional review, she couldn't legally work to replace what she'd lost. She'd tried the embassy. She'd tried the program's emergency line, which went to voicemail every time. She'd tried to contact her family, but her mother was sick and Jennie had been the one sending money home. She wasn't going to tell her mother she was sleeping on the street. So she slept on the street, and she refused to cry about it in public because Jennie Williams had decided, somewhere in the years of watching her mother work double shifts and still smile at the dinner table, that dignity was not a luxury. It was the one thing nobody could take unless you handed it to them. Jin-woo listened without moving. When she finished, he said, This Professor Lim, what university? She told him. He nodded once, filing it away. Then he stood and said, "Come with me." "I don't know you." "You've been sleeping against my building for 3 days. You know me better than most people." "That's not how that works." "It's cold," he said, "and you haven't eaten today, I can see it." He paused. "I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to eat something hot and make a decision after." She looked at him for a long moment. He didn't flinch, didn't push, just waited. Like her decision actually mattered. She stood up. He put her in the restaurant's private back room and told the kitchen to bring everything. She ate like someone angry at how hungry they were. He sat across from her, drank his coffee, said nothing, just existed in the same space, and that easiness made the room feel less like charity and more like two people, sitting somewhere warm. When she finished, she said, "Why are you doing this?" "I don't know yet," he said. That's an honest answer. I try to be honest when I don't have a better option. She almost smiled again. This time it reached her eyes, and Jin-woo noticed it the way you notice a light turning on in a window you thought was abandoned. "You can stay in one of the rooms above the restaurant tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we'll figure out the visa situation." "You can't fix a visa situation." He said nothing. She stared at him. "Who are you?" "Someone who finds things difficult to leave unresolved," he said. "It's a personal flaw." She took the room. Downstairs, Jin-woo called his lawyer, then a man named Director Chen who owed him something significant. "I need a student visa reviewed. Tonight." Then he sat in the dark restaurant and tried to figure out why a woman he'd met 40 minutes ago felt like something he'd been waiting for without knowing he was waiting. He didn't reach a conclusion. He went home. He didn't sleep. The next morning, his assistant Suyeon arrived with a garment bag, shopping bags, and coffee. "He said you take it black," she said. Was he right? Jennie stood in the doorway for a moment. Then she took the coffee. At 8. Jin-woo met her downstairs with 3 documents and a name. Her visa had been reclassified. The fraud case against Lim, officially closed 8 months ago, had been reopened. A new program, fully funded, was already expecting her call. She didn't touch the documents. Why? Because someone made you a promise and broke it deliberately, and it has gone unanswered too long. That's not why. People don't do this for reasons like that. "I do," he said. She held his gaze, then quietly, "I can't pay you back." "I'm not keeping a ledger." "I don't like owing people." "Then don't think of it as owing. Think of it as an investment in something that shouldn't have been undone." She picked up the documents. But nothing about Jennie Williams was simple, and nothing about Jin-woo's world was safe. 3 days after she moved into the program's housing, one of Jin-woo's associates, Baek Tae-jin, noticed the boss had been spending time in the Jagalchi district, noticed the room above the restaurant, noted the assistant's market trips. Baek was the kind of man who stored information like ammunition. He said nothing. Yet. The weeks that followed had a shape neither of them named. Jin-woo found reasons to be at the restaurant on Thursday evenings. Jennie found reasons to stop by, ostensibly to update him on the visa proceedings and the case against Lim. They sat in the back room, sometimes for 20 minutes, sometimes for 2 hours while Min-jun fell asleep in the car outside. She challenged him constantly, not carefully, with one eye on the exit, but the way someone does when they simply disagree and have no reason to pretend otherwise. She told him once that the way he described loyalty was actually just fear with better branding. He laughed, actually laughed, and she cataloged the sound of it like something rare. He found himself thinking about her at odd moments. At 3 in the morning when the city was quiet and the architecture of his own life, which had always felt sufficient, suddenly felt like a floor plan missing something. She felt it too, the warmth she hadn't asked for, the feeling of being known that ambushed her when she wasn't guarding against it. She knew, by now, what he was, not the details, but the shape of it. The calls that ended conversations. The weight he carried that came from holding great power and finding it surprisingly poor company. She asked him about it directly, because Jennie Williams did not do indirectly. "The things you do," she said, "do you think they're right?" He was quiet. Then, "No, I think they're necessary." "That's not the same thing." "I know. Does that bother you?" Something crossed his face, unguarded, something she'd never seen through all their Thursdays, something that looked like relief, like someone had finally asked the right question. "Every day," he said. She reached across and put her hand over his. It was the first time she'd touched him. He looked down at her hand, then very slowly turned his palm up. She didn't move away. Baek Tae-jin moved the following week. He went to Chairman Oh, old money, a rival who waited decades for the right pressure point, and told him Jin-woo Kang had a vulnerability, an American woman. No connections, no protection, no one who would come looking if she disappeared. Chairman Oh smiled for the first time in months. Jennie noticed the car on a Tuesday. Dark SUV, different plates each time, but the same dent above the rear left wheel. She'd seen it 3 times in 2 days, outside her building, near the university, in the market. She thought she might be imagining it. She was alone in a new country with a complicated history, and paranoia was reasonable. But on Wednesday, she left the university late, and the SUV was parked directly outside. And when she started walking, it started moving. And Jennie Williams had grown up in a part of Atlanta where you learned the difference between a car going somewhere and a car following you. She walked calmly to the nearest crowded street, went into a convenience store, called Jin-woo. He picked up on the first ring. "There's a car," she said and described it. "Don't move, don't go outside." She heard him shift into something fast and low in Korean. "Stay inside, I'm 12 minutes away." "You don't have to." "Jennie," his voice was steady and very clear, "I'm 12 minutes away." He arrived in 9. 2 cars, 4 men who fanned out without being told to. He came through the door and looked at her, and she'd expected relief or anger, but what she saw was something else entirely. Something that looked like fear, not for himself. For her. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Did they approach you?" "No, just followed." "You should have called me immediately." "I wasn't sure." "If you're not sure, you call me when it's nothing. When you think you're imagining it, you call me." He stopped, breathed. "You know who it is." "I have a strong suspicion." "Is this because of me?" He was quiet a beat too long. "Jin-woo." "Yes." She closed her eyes. "Then I should leave, if I'm a liability." "You are not a liability to me." He stepped closer, voice dropping, warm in the way something is warm when it's been burning under ash for a long time. "You are the only thing in my life right now that I will not move away from." The convenience store cashier studied his magazine with great intensity. Jennie looked at Jin-woo for a long moment. "Okay," she said. "Tonight I'll let you be terrifying and protective and not argue about it. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to have opinions." "I would expect nothing else," he said. He moved her that night to a secure building across the city, then spent 72 hours dismantling the operation around her. He found the SUV's origin within 14 hours, Baek's involvement within 24. Chairman Oh's full plan within 48, not to harm Jennie directly, but to use her to pull Jin-woo into an exposure. It was a good plan. Jin-woo dismantled it piece by piece, with the patience of someone who understood that the most effective destruction looked nothing like destruction from the outside. He called Baek in on the 3rd day. Baek walked into the meeting already preparing a story. Jin-woo let him sit, watched him for a long moment, and said quietly, "I've known since Tuesday." Baek went pale. "You will resign. You will leave Busan. You will not return." A pause. "This is a kindness, Tae-jin. Understand it as one." Baek left without a limp. Jin-woo had softened in some way he would not yet admit. He told Jennie most of it, enough for her to understand the weight of his world before she stood any closer to him. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said, "Is this your version of a warning?" "Yes, I'm giving you information. What you do with it is yours." She was quiet. Then, "You know what I keep thinking about. That first morning, you waited for me to decide. You just sat there. Most people with your kind of power stop waiting for the answer because they assume it'll be yes. But you waited. He held her gaze. I'm still waiting, he said. I'll wait as long as you need. She stood up, crossed the space between them, sat down beside him, not across, beside, close enough their arms touched. You don't have to wait anymore, she said. He exhaled slowly, like something wound tight for years was finally being set down. He reached over and took her hand. They sat in the quiet apartment 14 floors above Busan, and neither spoke, and it was the most complete silence Jin-woo Kang had experienced in 12 years. The weeks after were different. Gradual, like light changing through a window across an afternoon. Jennie went back to the program. The case against Professor Lim cracked open. 2 other international students came forward once they understood it was safe to, and the whole thing collapsed the way corrupt things collapse when pressure is applied from enough directions at once. Jin-woo's world shifted in small, visible ways. Jennie had a drawer that stopped being called her drawer and became just her drawer. Min-jun built her coffee order into his morning runs without being asked. Soo-yeon started addressing Thursday scheduling to both of them. Jin-woo started sleeping. Min-jun noticed first because he'd been driving him at 6 a.m. for years and saw the weight behind his eyes every morning. And then, gradually, he didn't. Min-jun said nothing, but he allowed himself one quiet thought. Whatever she was doing, she should keep doing it. Jennie called her mother in January. A real call, no editing, no managing her mother's worry. Her mother was quiet a long time. Then, is he good to you? Jennie looked across the room to where Jin-woo leaned against the counter, collar open, hair slightly messed, looking nothing like what people imagined when they imagined him. Yeah, Mom, he's good to me. Does he make you feel safe? She thought about the real kind of safe, where someone knows your exact edges and doesn't flinch at them, where the hard, true things get filed rather than weaponized. Yeah, she said, he does. Her mother made the sound of a woman, deciding something was true. He told her he loved her not with a declaration but a question. It was April, walking the Hyundai waterfront at evening, when the light came off the water and turned everything gold. She'd been talking about a project she was proud of, and he was giving her all of himself, not the divided attention she'd seen him give boardrooms and negotiations. She finished. He stopped walking. I want to ask you something, he said. I want to know if you think this is. He stopped, started again. I have not known what to do with you since the moment I sat down on that curb. I've spent my life knowing what to do with everything. He exhaled. I need you to tell me what this is. I think you know, she said quietly. I want to hear you say it. She stepped toward him, touched his face, her hand against his jaw. He closed his eyes for just a moment, like she was something that could be absorbed. I love you, Jin-woo. That's what this is. He opened his eyes, pressed his hand over hers. I love you, he said, the words slightly unfamiliar, like speaking something in a language he'd always known but never used. I need you to know that I don't say things I don't mean, and whatever shape this needs to take for it to work, for this to be a life that is actually good for you, I will do that work. You just described a partnership, she said. Yes. That means I get opinions. You have always had opinions. I have never once managed to stop that. She laughed, her real laugh, slightly louder than intended. Jin-woo watched it with the quiet, total attention of someone who had decided this was the most important thing happening in any room. He pulled her toward him. She let him. Professor Lim was formally convicted in May. The 7 students whose scholarships he'd stolen were compensated through a fund the university established quietly. Jennie received the full amount she was owed, plus damages. She transferred it to her mother immediately. She finished the program in June, top of her cohort. Jin-woo attended the ceremony from a car outside, following Soo-yeon's tablet live stream, because certain rooms were rooms he couldn't easily enter. But when Jennie came out holding her certificate, squinting in the afternoon light, his car was right there. Min-jun leaned against it with coffee. Jin-woo stood with his hands in his pockets, wearing the expression he wore when he felt something significant and declined to perform it. She walked toward him. "Congratulations," he said. "You watched the whole thing, didn't you?" "I may have." She shook her head, smiling. He looked at the certificate and something crossed his face, clean, uncomplicated pride. "Come on," he said. "The kitchen's been waiting since noon." "The short rib thing." "All of it," he said. "Everything." She took his hand. Chairman O resolved himself. 3 months after the incident with Jennie, he moved against another organization, misjudged the response, and lost 3 key alliances in a week. By spring, he was managing the diminished empire of a man who had tried to touch something he didn't understand and paid for it. Jin-woo never gloated. He noted it, filed it, moved on. She stayed in Busan. Not because she had to, she had real options now, the kind that had seemed impossibly far from a cardboard box in November. She stayed because she chose it, chose the city that had almost broken her, chose the man it had given her. Jin-woo began the long, careful work of becoming someone the city would eventually know differently, not in grand gestures. In the slow, deliberate way, he did everything piece by piece, building something that could be handed forward without shame. It was Jennie's idea, though she hadn't called it one. She'd simply asked, "What do you want your life to look like in 10 years?" He'd thought about it genuinely and said, "Different." And she'd said, "Then let's figure out different." That was how most things between them started. She asked the real question. He gave the real answer. And then they figured it out together. On a Thursday evening in October, almost exactly a year after Min-jun had stopped the car near Jagalchi Market, Jennie sat in the back room with her laptop, her notes, a coffee exactly right. Jin-woo came in from a meeting and sat across from her. "Long day," she said. "Productive, you." "Really good. I got the fellowship." He looked at her. "The research one, in Busan," she said. "I applied to the Busan one specifically." He was quiet. "Don't," she said, before he could offer the careful, giving thing rising in him. "Don't what?" "Don't tell me I should have applied to Seoul or London. I applied to the one that keeps me here. That was my decision. Own it with me." He looked at her for a long moment. "I'm very glad you applied to the one that keeps you here." "I know," she said. She smiled. He smiled. The city moved outside, port noise, salt air, the low, beautiful light of a Busan evening. And in the back room of the restaurant where a woman had once slept against the outside wall, 2 people sat across from each other in the warmth and said nothing more and needed nothing more and were, in every way that actually counted, exactly where they were supposed to be.